Jack stood in the middle of the bustling alien city, his eyes scanning the grand arena ahead. The stars above sparkled brightly, and the air smelled of excitement. It was the day of the great intergalactic tournament. Warriors from different planets, all with their own unique skills, had gathered to compete. Some of them were big, some were small, and all had impressive abilities. Jack, a soldier from Earth, felt out of place. He wasn't like the other warriors. His arms weren't big, and he didn't have the kind of strength the others had. His people were known for being weak compared to the giant species of the galaxy. But Jack had a different strength, one that couldn't be seen in his muscles. His mind was sharp, and his ability to think quickly made him a strong opponent. Even against the largest and strongest beings, Jack's eyes fell on one warrior in particular, Zara, a fierce alien female from a race known for their immense strength. She was tall, with a powerful build, and her armor glinted under the bright lights of the arena. She was the one everyone was watching. She had won every battle she fought, and her victory seemed certain. Zara had a reputation for being ruthless, and her pride was as big as her muscles. As Jack walked through the crowd toward the arena, he could hear whispers around him. The aliens around him seemed to laugh at his small frame. Some even pointed at him, shaking their heads. They didn't believe he stood a chance. Zara stood nearby, watching the crowd. She caught sight of Jack, and her lips curled into a mocking smile. She stepped forward, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Look at this," she said, laughing. "A human so small and weak, thinking he can compete in this tournament. Does he even know what strength is?" The crowd chuckled, some even joined in her laughter. Jack didn't flinch. He knew they didn't understand. They didn't know what humans were capable of, Zara continued, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Are you going to use your brain to fight, or will you hide behind your tiny arms and hope no one notices?" The laughter grew louder, and Jack felt the weight of their judgment. But he didn't respond, just kept walking toward the entrance of the arena, his face calm, his heart steady. He had come here to prove something, not to argue. Zara's laughter followed him, but Jack's focus was unshaken. He had trained for this day, not with brute strength, but with strategy. He knew that power wasn't always about size or force. Sometimes it was about outsmarting your opponent. The tournament wasn't just about fighting. It was about survival. The warriors who made it through each round would have to face greater challenges, each more difficult than the last. And Jack wasn't afraid. He had faced hardships before. He had seen the worst of battles and come out stronger. Inside the arena, the first round began. The fighters were introduced one by one. There were massive creatures, tall and fierce, some armed with weapons, others with natural powers. Jack was the last to be called. As he walked onto the arena floor, he could hear whispers once again. Some were laughing, others were curious, but all eyes were on him. He was human, the smallest one in the entire tournament. Everyone was waiting for him to fail. The first round was simple. Each fighter had to face a wild creature from a distant planet. The creatures were dangerous, with sharp claws and quick reflexes. Most of the warriors rushed into the battle, using their strength to overpower the beasts. But Jack was different. He observed, he watched the creature's movements carefully. As the creature lunged toward him, he sidestepped at the last second, using the creature's own momentum to send it crashing into the ground. He didn't need to fight with brute force. Instead, he used his agility, his quick thinking. The crowd gasped in surprise. They hadn't expected Jack to defeat the creature so quickly. The announcer's voice boomed through the arena. "Human. Contestant Jack has defeated the beast in less than a minute."
How remarkable.
The announcer's words were filled with disbelief. Jack nodded quietly as the creature was dragged away.
Ow.
He didn't take pride in the victory. It was just the first step. He had proven that he could win, not by being the strongest, but by being smarter than his opponent. Zara's eyes narrowed. She had been watching closely, her smile no longer so certain. Jack had surprised her, but she still believed she was the superior warrior. She was known for crushing her opponents with raw strength. She would do the same to Jack. She was sure of it. The next rounds were even more difficult, with stronger creatures and more skilled fighters. But Jack continued to impress everyone. His strategy, winning the day. He never showed his fear, never let his doubts control him. He moved with purpose, each step calculated. As he won each fight, the crowd began to murmur. They were starting to respect him. Zara, on the other hand, continued to dominate her opponents, her battles ending in quick victories. But every time Jack defeated another challenger, her doubt grew. Was this human really as weak as she had thought? Could he really go up against her in the final round? The last fight of the day was coming soon, and Zara was preparing herself. She was ready to show everyone that strength was all that mattered. She would crush Jack, and the crowd would see that the humans were nothing compared to her race. But Jack wasn't worried. He had already planned for this moment. The real fight was just beginning. Jack woke up early the next day, as he had done for the past several weeks. The sun had just begun to rise over the alien city, and the streets were still quiet. Jack could hear the soft hum of the city's technology in the background, but it was peaceful. For the first time since he had arrived, he felt a sense of calm. His hands were still sore from yesterday's battles, but he was focused. He had a plan, and it was a good one. He knew he wasn't the biggest fighter. He knew he didn't have the strength that others like Zara had. But that wasn't what would win the tournament. It was his mind, his ability to outthink his opponents that would carry him through. As Jack walked through the training area, he saw the other warriors already practicing. Zara was there too, swinging her massive weapon in the air with ease, her muscles rippling as she moved. She was a sight to behold, a giant among the others. But Jack wasn't distracted by her strength or her confidence. He was focused on what he had to do. Jack found a quiet corner of the training grounds and began his routine. While the others practiced hand-to-hand combat and brute strength, Jack worked on his agility. He practiced jumping, rolling, and weaving through obstacles. He also worked with the tools and gadgets he had brought with him from Earth. These were small, compact, and lightweight, just the kind of equipment that could give him an edge in a fight. Zara, meanwhile, seemed to notice him out of the corner of her eye. She was watching, as usual. Jack could feel her gaze, but he didn't let it bother him. He had a purpose. While the others used their power to get stronger, Jack was building something different strategy. He worked on his reflexes, his timing, and his understanding of his environment. He knew he couldn't match Zara in strength, but he could match her in speed, intelligence, and adaptability. Throughout the day, Jack continued his training, pushing himself to improve. His routine wasn't just about getting stronger. It was about making sure he could think faster and react quicker. He wasn't going to wait for his enemies to make a move. He was going to be the one who took control. As Jack was practicing, he overheard some of the other warriors talking. One of them, a large alien from a planet of giant creatures, was mocking him again. "Did you see that human?" the warrior said. "He's not even trying to get stronger. He's wasting his time. He'll never stand a chance against Zara. She's a real warrior." The other warriors laughed, and Jack could hear them snickering. But Jack didn't let their words get to him. He had heard it all before. He'd always been the underdog. And in every challenge he faced, he had learned that underestimating someone was the quickest way to lose. Zara was still watching. But this time, Jack noticed a small frown on her face. She was probably confused by his unusual training methods. Most warriors trained the way she did, focusing on strength and combat skills. But Jack knew that was only one part of the equation. Strength wasn't just about muscle. It was about knowing how to use what you had. As the tournament grew closer, Jack continued his routine, worked with his tools, practiced his reflexes, and honed his instincts. He also spent time studying the alien creatures that were part of the competition. Zara's battle beast, a large, fierce creature that she had tamed and trained, was the most dangerous in the arena. Jack had seen it in action, and he knew that if he wanted to win, he would have to find a way to use the beast against Zara. He spent hours observing it from a distance, learning its movements, studying its behavior. He knew that most people saw it as a weapon, something to be used to crush the enemy. But Jack saw it as a tool. If he could understand the beast's weaknesses, he could use them to his advantage. Zara, on the other hand, seemed to grow more and more confident. She was still mocking Jack, still laughing at his methods. But the more she did, the more determined Jack became. He wasn't going to let her or anyone else make him doubt himself. The tournament wasn't just about strength. It was about who was smarter, who was faster, and who could adapt to the challenges that came their way. The day of the final round was approaching. The tension in the arena was building. Jack could feel it in the air, a sense of excitement and nervousness. The crowd was buzzing with anticipation, eager to see who would come out on top. Would it be the mighty Zara, with her strength and her battle beast, or would it be the underdog? The human who had fought his way through the rounds with his mind and his strategy? Zara seemed to notice the shift in the crowd's attention. The whispers about Jack's surprising victories had reached her ears, and it was starting to bother her. She couldn't understand how a human, someone so small and weak, had made it so far. She still believed that strength would win in the end, but a small seed of doubt had been planted. Jack had already proven that he could think his way through battles. She had to worry about what he might do in the final round. Jack didn't spend time worrying about Zara or anyone else. He was focused on his plan. He knew what he had to do. It wasn't about winning through brute force. It was about showing Zara that there was more to a warrior than just strength. As the final day of the tournament arrived, Jack felt a wave of calm wash over him. This was it, the final battle. He didn't need to be the strongest, just needed to be the smartest, and when he faced Zara, he would show her exactly what that meant. The day of the final round had arrived. The sun was high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the grand arena. The crowd had gathered, their excited murmurs filling the air as they awaited the start of the most anticipated match of the tournament. Jack stood at the entrance, taking a deep breath. He wasn't nervous, but the weight of the moment was hard to ignore. This was his chance. Not just to win the tournament, but to show the galaxy what humans were capable of. He could hear the cheers from the audience as Zara stepped into the arena. Her tall, powerful form was a stark contrast to Jack's smaller build. She walked with confidence, her head held high, her eyes scanning the crowd. The alien warriors around her nodded in approval, their respect for her evident in their gaze. Zara was the favorite to win, and she knew it. She had crushed every opponent so far with ease, her strength unmatched by anyone in the tournament. Jack, on the other hand, had been underestimated from the start. His arms weren't muscular, and his movements weren't as flashy or powerful as the other fighters, but Jack had something they didn't: strategy. He'd spent the past few weeks studying his opponents, learning their strengths and weaknesses, and preparing for the final battle. He knew he wasn't going to outmuscle Zara, but he didn't need to. Just needed to outthink her. As the match began, Zara charged at Jack, her large battle beast beside her, ready for action. The creature, a terrifying monster with razor-sharp claws and glowing red eyes, let out a deafening roar, signaling the start of the battle. The crowd gasped in awe, watching as Zara and her beast advanced towards Jack. Jack didn't move, stood still, watching Zara closely. The creature lunged at him, but Jack was ready. He sidestepped just in time, narrowly avoiding its attack. The beast was fast, but Jack was faster. He had spent hours studying its movements, learning when it would strike and how to avoid its attacks. Zara growled in frustration, but Jack didn't take his eyes off the beast. He knew that it was just as much a part of Zara's strategy as her own strength. She relied on it to intimidate her enemies, to give her an edge in battle. But Jack wasn't afraid. He'd already seen the creature's weaknesses. It was fast, but it wasn't invincible. The beast lunged again, and this time Jack was ready. He ducked low and used the creature's momentum to push it off balance. Zara's beast stumbled, crashing to the ground with a loud thud. The crowd went silent, shocked by the unexpected turn of events. Zara's confident smirk faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. She wasn't going to let one mistake stop her. "You think you can defeat me with tricks, human?" Zara shouted, her voice filled with anger. "You're weak. Can't win." Jack didn't respond. He didn't need to. His focus remained on the battle, on the creature that was now trying to regain its footing. He could hear the crowd whispering, but he blocked them out. This wasn't about impressing anyone. This was about winning. Zara's beast got back on its feet, more aggressive than before. It charged at Jack with a speed that took the breath out of the audience. Jack knew he had only one shot to turn this fight around. He had to act quickly. As the beast approached, he darted forward just out of its reach. He grabbed one of the chains that held the creature in place and yanked it with all his strength. The creature's momentum shifted again, and it stumbled forward, crashing into Zara. The audience gasped as Zara struggled to regain control of the beast. She had never expected this kind of fight. She had always relied on her strength, her beast, to do the work for her. But Jack was showing her that strength alone wouldn't win every battle. Sometimes it took brains. Zara tried to get up, her face red with anger. "You're a fool, human," she yelled, her voice filled with frustration. "You can't control the beast. You can't defeat me." Jack stood tall, his breathing steady. He had the upper hand now, and he wasn't going to let it slip away. He knew. He couldn't afford to make a mistake. The battle wasn't over yet, and Zara wasn't going to give up without a fight. But Jack was ready. He glanced around the arena, searching for his next move. There was a small, rocky outcrop near the edge of the arena. It was a long shot, but if he could get there, he might be able to use it to his advantage. He was quick, and the creature was already off balance. This was his chance. Jack took off running, his legs carrying him faster than the beast could react. Zara's eyes widened as Jack reached the outcrop and climbed up, putting himself in a better position. The beast followed, its claws scraping against the ground as it tried to catch him. But Jack wasn't done yet. He reached into his bag, pulling out a small device he had been hiding. It was a tool designed to send a small shock through the creature's nervous system. Zara had no idea it was coming. With a flick of his wrist, Jack activated the device, sending a burst of energy through the beast. The creature howled in pain and fell back, stunned. Zara's eyes went wide with shock. He'd never seen anything like it before. Her beast was under control, but not in the way she expected. The crowd erupted in cheers. Zara was left standing there, her face a mixture of disbelief and rage. Jack had done it. He had beaten her at her own game. Used strategy, not strength, to win the fight. Zara didn't know how to respond. She'd been so sure of her victory. But now, in the face of Jack's skill and intelligence, she realized that she had underestimated him. And that, more than anything, was what stung the most. Jack stood tall, his chest heaving with the effort. He wasn't done yet. There was still more to be done, but for the first time he allowed himself a small smile. He had proven that brains could defeat brawn. And that was just the beginning. The crowd's roar still echoed in Jack's ears as he stood in the center of the arena, waiting. Zara's battle beast lay motionless on the ground, stunned by Jack's device. The alien warriors who had gathered to watch the tournament were in shock, their eyes wide with disbelief. Zara was still trying to regain her composure, her hands shaking with frustration. "You think you've won?" Zara sneered, trying to stand tall despite the situation. Her face was red with rage, but there was a flicker of doubt in her eyes. She wasn't used to being outsmarted. "You've only made me angrier. I will crush you for this." Act didn't respond. His chest was heaving from the effort, but his mind was clear. He knew Zara was not going to give up easily. She still had her pride, and she wouldn't back down until she'd given everything she had. He wasn't about to make the mistake of underestimating her. The announcer's voice rang out across the arena, drawing the attention of everyone watching. The battle continues. Zara and Jack the human have clashed in a spectacular fight, but who will be the true victor? Jack's eyes never left Zara. She was preparing for the next round, and this time she was more careful. The creature was still struggling to get up, but Zara had something else in mind. She had an advantage that Jack couldn't ignore: her immense strength. "Let's see how well you do without your tricks," Zara taunted. "You'll never defeat me with your mind alone." She reached down, grabbing the creature's collar, and yanked it back to its feet. Zara's face was a mask of anger, but it also showed respect. She had seen what Jack was capable of, and she knew that she couldn't afford to take him lightly anymore. Her pride had been wounded, but now she was ready to show her true power. The crowd waited in silence, watching the tense moment unfold. Zara was focused, and Jack was waiting for her to make the first move. He knew that he had the advantage, but he wasn't foolish enough to think that it would be easy. Zara was strong, and if she landed a good hit, it could be over. Jack's body was still sore from his previous battles, but he wasn't going to back down. Without warning, Zara charged. She moved faster than Jack expected, and her battle beast followed, snapping at the air. Jack barely had time to react as she came at him with full force. Her fists were like hammers, and the beast was hot on her heels, ready to attack. But Jack was faster. He ducked under Zara's attack. Using his speed and agility to slip past her and avoid the beast's jaws, Zara cursed under her breath, frustrated by Jack's evasive moves. She tried again, swinging at him with all her strength. But Jack was already moving, ducking and weaving to avoid her blows. He was tiring, but he couldn't let up now. He had to keep her guessing. Jack's mind raced as he analyzed the situation. Zara was strong, but she was predictable. She relied on her power, thinking that it would be enough to defeat him. But Jack had learned from their earlier encounter. He knew how to use the environment to his advantage. As Zara lunged forward again, Jack spotted a weak spot in the arena's structure, a large pillar that was barely holding up a section of the arena wall. If he could get Zara close enough he might be able to use it to his advantage. "Come on, Zara," Jack said, his voice calm but loud enough for her to hear. "You can do better than this. Or are you just going to keep relying on your strength?" Zara's eyes narrowed, and she charged at him again, more determined than ever. She wanted to prove that she was the stronger one, that no human could defeat her in a fair fight. But Jack had other plans. As Zara swung her fist toward him, Jack dodged to the side, moving toward the pillar. Zara's beast was right behind her, its claws reaching out to grab him. Jack leaped to the side, using the momentum of his jump to send the creature crashing into the pillar with a loud crash. The pillar shook, and a loud crack echoed through the arena. Zara's eyes widened in shock. The pillar started to crumble, pieces of rock and debris falling around them. The crowd gasped, realizing what was happening. Zara's battle beast was trapped under the falling rocks, and Zara herself was caught off guard by the sudden shift in the fight. Jack didn't wait for Zara to recover. He used the moment to his advantage, running toward her and knocking her off balance. With a swift move, he grabbed Zara's arm and twisted it, forcing her to the ground. The crowd fell silent as they watched Jack pin Zara to the floor. "Isn't strength, Zara," Jack said, his voice steady. "This is strategy, and you just got outsmarted." Zara struggled beneath him, trying to push him off, but Jack's grip was firm. He wasn't going to let her escape. She had underestimated him, and now she was paying the price. The crowd erupted in cheers as the announcer's voice boomed over the arena. "Jack the Human has defeated Zara, the mighty warrior." A shocking turn of events. Zara lay on the ground, breathing heavily, her face flushed with anger and humiliation. She had been beaten, not by someone stronger, but by someone who knew how to use his mind. Jack had done the impossible. He had defeated Zara at her own game. Jack stood up and offered her a hand. He wasn't gloating, but he wasn't going to let her defeat crush her either. Zara looked up at him, still breathing hard, and for the first time, there was no anger in her eyes. Instead, there was something else: respect. "You," Zara began, her voice quiet. "You're better than I thought." Jack smiled, but he didn't say anything. He had proven his point. It wasn't about being the strongest. It was about being the smartest. As the crowd continued to cheer, Jack knew that he had just won the greatest victory of his life. And it wasn't because he was stronger or faster, it was because he had outsmarted the most powerful opponent in the galaxy. The crowd's roar was deafening. Jack stood in the center of the arena, his body sore but his mind sharp. His victory over Zara had stunned everyone, but most of all, it had stunned Zara herself. She lay on the ground, breathing heavily, her pride shattered. It wasn't just that she had lost, it was the way she had lost. She had been outsmarted, and that stung more than any blow she could have taken in battle. Zara slowly pushed herself to her feet, glaring at Jack with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Her large, powerful frame seemed smaller now, as if the weight of her defeat had taken something from her. "I had always been the strongest, the most feared warrior in the galaxy. But Jack had shown her that strength alone was not enough. "You tricked me," Zara spat, her voice thick with rage. "You shouldn't have been able to defeat me. I was supposed to win." Jack didn't answer right away. He just stood there, his breathing steady. He had expected Zara to react this way. She was used to being the best, and losing to someone she had once thought was weak must have been a blow to her ego. But Jack didn't care about her pride. He had come here to prove something, to prove that brains, not just brawn, could win a battle. "You were too focused on your strength," Jack said calmly, his eyes meeting hers. "You underestimated me, and that was your mistake." Zara's fists clenched, but she didn't make a move. Jack could see the conflict in her eyes. She was angry. But there was something else there now, a hint of respect. It was hard to admit, but she had to recognize Jack's skill. He had won, and she had lost. The announcer's voice broke the silence, and the crowd went wild. "Jack, the human, has done the unthinkable," the announcer shouted. "He has defeated Zara, the champion of the tournament, and has shown the galaxy what true strength really is." The crowd erupted into cheers, but Jack didn't join in the celebration. It expected this moment, but the victory didn't feel as sweet as he had imagined. He had always known that he could win with the right strategy, but seeing Zara defeated in front of all these aliens, her pride crushed, was not as satisfying as he thought it would be. Zara stood there for a moment, still glaring at Jack, but then her anger seemed to fade. She took a deep breath and finally spoke, her voice quieter now. "You beat me," she said, her tone more subdued. "And I see now that I was wrong about you. I thought you were just a weak human, but you've proven me wrong. You're worthy." "Opponent," Jack nodded, but he didn't let her words go to his head. This wasn't about earning her respect. It was about showing the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. "I didn't win because I'm stronger than you," Jack replied. "I won because I used what I had. Strength isn't just about muscles. It's about knowing how to use what you've got." Zara's gaze softened slightly, but her pride was still intact, even if it was bruised. She had lost, but she wasn't going to let Jack see how much it hurt. Instead, she looked around at the other warriors who had watched the battle, and for the first time, she saw something in their eyes. Respect. She wasn't the only one who had underestimated Jack. They had all thought he would fail. But now, they saw him as a force to be reckoned with. "I'll admit," Zara said, her voice steady, "you've earned my respect. And I've learned something today. Strength isn't just about power. It's about strategy, intelligence, and knowing when to fight and when to hold back." Jack nodded, pleased to hear that Zara understood. He didn't need her admiration, but it was clear that his victory had made her rethink her views on what it meant to be a warrior. The crowd continued to cheer as the announcer called for the final standings. "And now, Jack the human has won the tournament. He has shown us all what true victory looks like. He has proven that it's not always the strongest who win, it's the smartest." As Jack stood there, soaking in the crowd's applause, he couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. He had come here to prove a point, to show that humans had something unique to offer, even in a galaxy full of powerful warriors. And now, the entire galaxy knew it. Zara approached him slowly, her steps hesitant. She reached out her hand, and for a moment, the arena fell silent. Everyone was watching. The fierce warrior who had once mocked Jack, who had laughed at his weak arms, was offering him her hand in a gesture of respect. Jack took her hand firmly, shaking it without hesitation. "Thank you," he said simply. Zara nodded, her eyes meeting his. "I didn't expect to learn something from a human today, but I did. You've shown me that there's more to strength than muscle. You've taught me that strategy and intelligence can win battles, too." With that, Zara turned and walked away, her pride still bruised, but her respect for Jack clear. She wasn't defeated in spirit, but she had been humbled. And perhaps that was the most important lesson she could have learned. As Jack watched her leave, he felt a sense of peace. He had done what he set out to do. He had proven himself, not through brute force, but through intelligence and strategy. And now, the galaxy knew that humans were not to be taken lightly. The crowd continued to cheer as Jack raised his arms in victory. But it wasn't the victory he had imagined. It wasn't about proving anyone wrong or showing that humans were Stronger than aliens, it was about proving that anyone, no matter their size or strength, could make a difference if they used their mind. And that, more than anything, was what made Jack's victory so sweet. The tournament had ended, but for Jack, the excitement had barely begun to fade. He had won, yes, but it wasn't just the title that filled him with pride. It was the knowledge that he had proven something. He had shown the galaxy that a human, small and seemingly weak, could stand shoulder to shoulder with the greatest warriors the universe had to offer, and he had done it through wit, strategy, and patience. As the crowd began to leave, their cheers still echoing in his ears, Jack found himself walking slowly toward the exit of the arena. His body ached from the intense battles he had fought, but he didn't mind. It was the feeling of accomplishment that mattered now. He had faced fierce opponents and emerged victorious. He had not only earned the respect of the warriors around him, but had also shown himself what he was capable of. A soft voice called out from behind him, Jack. He turned to see Zara walking toward him, her posture still proud, but this time there was no arrogance in her steps. She had changed since their battle. The tough, untouchable warrior he had first met had been humbled, and in its place stood someone who understood the value of what Jack had done. Zara, Jack said, his voice calm. I didn't expect to see you again. Zara stopped a few feet from him, her eyes meeting his. There was no more anger in her gaze, just respect. She didn't need to say anything at first. The look on her face said it all. She had lost, but she had learned. And that was something even the strongest warrior sometimes failed to grasp. I wanted to thank you, Zara said, her voice sincere. You've shown me something I didn't know I needed to see. I've always believed that strength was everything, that if I could defeat my enemies with power, then I had nothing to fear. But you showed me that there's more to being a warrior than that. There's strategy, intelligence, and the ability to outthink your opponent. Jack smiled, not in a way that suggested pride, but in a way that showed he understood. Strength is important, he said, but it's not everything. There's always someone bigger, faster, or stronger. What matters is how you use what you have, how you never stop learning. Zara nodded slowly, her expression thoughtful. See that now. I was so focused on being the strongest that I overlooked the value of other skills. Your mind, your ability to think is what won you. The tournament, not your size, not your muscles. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the noise of the retreating crowd fading in the background. Jack could see the change in Zara's eyes. There was no more bitterness, no more desire for revenge. She had faced her defeat, accepted it, and learned from it. It was a humbling experience, but one that would make her a better warrior. Been thinking, Zara said, breaking the silence. I've spent my whole life proving that I'm the strongest. Maybe it's time I start. Learning what it means to be a better fighter, not just a stronger one. Maybe it's time to train my mind as much as I've trained my body. Jack was pleased to hear that. He had never wanted Zara to remain defeated. He wanted her to grow from the experience. That sounds like a good plan, he said. There's always room for improvement. No one knows everything, not even the strongest. Zara looked down at her feet for a moment, then met Jack's eyes again. You've earned my respect, Jack, not just for beating me, but for showing me something I didn't. See before? You've changed the way I think about strength. You've changed the way I think about warriors. Jack gave her a small nod, acknowledging her words. It wasn't just me. Everyone here has their own way of being strong. I just used what I had. We all have something to offer, even if it's not obvious at first. Zara smiled faintly, then extended her hand toward him. It was a gesture of peace, one that she had never offered before in their earlier encounters. It was a sign of the respect she had for him now, and Jack didn't hesitate to take it. Thank you, Zara said quietly, for teaching me something I didn't know I needed to learn. Jack shook her hand, his grip firm, but not overpowering. No problem. We all have something to teach, don't we? Zara laughed softly, the sound genuine. It was the first time Jack had heard her laugh since they had met. I guess we do, she said, a spark of understanding in her eyes. The two of them stood there for a while, sharing a moment of quiet respect. The arena now empty of its cheering. Crowd felt smaller somehow, as if the space between them had been filled with a new understanding. Jack had come to prove something, and in doing so, he had shown Zara that strength wasn't just about muscles and power. It was about using your mind and your heart. It was about learning and growing. As they parted ways, Zara gave him one last, "Look, I'll be watching you, human," she said with a wink. "Maybe one day we'll face each other again, but next time I'll be ready." Jack smiled, knowing that this time they would both be better for it. They had both learned something important from each other, and that was what made the tournament worthwhile. It wasn't just about winning or losing. It was about growth, respect, and the ability to change. As Jack walked away, he felt a sense of pride not just in his victory, but in what it had taught him. The galaxy had seen his strength, but what mattered most was that he had shown the true meaning of being a warrior, and that, more than anything, was worth more than any trophy.